You hug your friend. Your dog walks between you. Your cat stares at you like she is planning something. Your partner laughs at someone else's joke a little too long, and you feel something tighten in your chest. You call it jealousy. You assume it is one of the most complicated, civilized feelings the human brain has ever invented. Brain imaging studies show that jealousy lights up the amygdala, the limbic system, and parts of the prefrontal cortex. The same regions light up in dogs. They light up in monkeys. They light up in the brains of animals that have nothing in common with us except a long-buried mammalian ancestor that loved someone enough to be afraid of losing them. But for 99% of scientific history, this didn't exist. No experiments, no brain imaging, no proof. No reason to believe an animal could feel possessive of someone they loved. For 200,000 years, we have assumed jealousy was one of the most sophisticated emotions our brain ever produced. So, can other animals actually feel it? Do they get angry when we ignore them? Do they care if someone else gets more than they do? The answer is more chemical, more social, and more familiar than most people imagine. Let's start with the most studied case. In July of 2014, the psychologist Christine Harris and her undergraduate student Harris-Prouvost at the University of California, San Diego published a study in the journal PLOS ONE. It was the first controlled experimental test of jealousy in dogs. They adapted a setup originally developed by infant psychologists to study 6-month-old human babies. They brought in 36 dogs and their owners and filmed them inside their own homes. Each dog watched its owner pay close, affectionate attention to 3 different objects in sequence: pop-up book, a musical jack-o'-lantern, and a small animated stuffed dog that barked, whined, and wagged its tail. The results were extraordinary in their precision. When the owner paid attention to the book, only 22% of the dogs reacted. When the owner played with the jack-o'-lantern, 42% reacted. But when the owner cooed and petted the stuffed dog, 78% of the real dogs reacted with classic jealous behavior. They snapped at the stuffed dog. They pushed their owner's arm away. They wedged themselves between the owner and the rival. They tried to break up the bond. The conclusion in the paper was almost shocking in its simplicity. Jealousy in dogs is not mystical. It is not a projection. It is a structured emotional response that arises when an animal believes its bond is being given to someone else. The dog knew the stuffed dog wasn't real. It didn't care. What mattered was the attention going somewhere it shouldn't. 4 years later, the same effect was caught on a brain scanner. In 2018, the neuroeconomist Gregory Burns at Emory University in Atlanta, the same researcher who had trained dogs to stay still inside an MRI, repeated a version of the Harris experiment under fMRI imaging. He showed each dog its owner feeding food to either a realistic fake dog or a plastic bucket. The brain activity told the story instantly. When the owner fed the rival dog, the amygdala of the real dog, part of the brain associated with arousal, threat, and emotional intensity, lit up powerfully. When the owner fed the bucket, almost nothing happened. The dogs with the most aggressive temperaments had the largest amygdala spikes. The neural signature of canine jealousy is almost identical to the neural signature of human jealousy. We are not imagining it. We are watching the same emotion fire in another species in real time. 90 million years of separate evolution between humans and dogs. And the part of the brain that says, "that should be mine," turns out to be in the same place doing the same thing. But jealousy is not only about losing love, it is also about being treated unfairly. In 2003, the American primatologist Sarah Brosnan, working with Franz de Waal at the Yerkes National Primate Research Center in Atlanta, published a study in the journal Nature that ran a now famous experiment with capuchin monkeys. The setup was simple. 2 capuchins were placed in adjacent cages where they could see each other clearly. The experimenter asked each monkey in turn to perform a small task, handing the researcher a rock. After completing the task, the monkey received a piece of food. At first, both monkeys received cucumber. Both accepted it, both seemed perfectly happy. Then, while the first monkey watched, the experimenter switched the second monkey's reward to a grape, which capuchins prefer. The first monkey performed the task again, got cucumber again, and the world watched what happened next. The monkey took the cucumber, looked at it, looked at the other monkey, and then, with a furious motion, threw the cucumber back at the researcher's face. Then she rattled the bars of her cage. She slammed her hands on the floor. She refused to do another task. The video became one of the most viral pieces of psychology footage ever produced. A small primate in a plastic enclosure in a Georgia lab had just shown the entire world the original form of unfairness. The roots of every protest, every union, every divorce over money. The capuchin had not been hurt. The cucumber was perfectly fine the moment before. The pain came entirely from comparison. The other monkey got more, and that was enough. If the test had been run with two humans receiving $5 bills and $10 bills, the result would have been almost identical, just with quieter shouting. And then there are the birds. Mute swans, the elegant white birds that drift across European lakes, form pair bonds that last for life. Researchers studying breeding populations have documented essentially no infidelity, even when they use DNA testing to check. When one partner dies, the survivor typically takes more than a year to look for a new mate. One famous case from England documented a swan that waited 6 years before pairing again. The Florida scrub jay, a small blue bird native to the southeastern United States, holds an even stronger record. Pairs have been tracked for more than 8 years at a time, and genetic analysis has found 0 cases of cheating. These animals do not just dislike infidelity, they have built entire lives around its absence. The most ferocious jealousy in the bird world belongs to a single species that has lived alongside humans for centuries, the African gray parrot. African greys are widely considered to be among the most intelligent non-human animals on the planet. The American biologist Irene Pepperberg, who worked at Brandeis University for decades, spent 30 years studying a single African gray named Alex. By the time Alex died in 2007, he had a working vocabulary of more than 100 words, could perform basic arithmetic, distinguished colors and shapes, and reportedly grasped the concept of zero, a concept human civilizations did not formalize until the 7th century. Pepperberg estimated that the emotional intelligence of an adult African gray is roughly comparable to that of a 5-year-old human child. And with that intelligence comes that emotion. African greys in captivity tend to form intense monogamous bonds with one specific human. And when another human, often the favorite person's partner, child, or new friend, comes too close to the bird's chosen one, parrot frequently attacks. They scream, they lunge, they bite. Veterinarians around the world have documented endless cases of greys delivering deep wounds specifically to the romantic partners of their human. The bird is not confused. The bird is jealous. The bird thinks the human is theirs. The bird is willing to lose blood to defend that belief. The bird does not care that it weighs 400 grams and the human it loves weighs 70 kilos. So what is actually going on inside all of these animals? Why does a dog wedge itself between its owner and a stuffed toy? Why does a capuchin throw food back? Why does a parrot bite the new boyfriend? The answer is the same chemistry that runs through us. Jealousy is associated with a sharp rise in cortisol, the stress hormone, and a drop in oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It is the alarm system attached to attachment. You cannot feel jealous of a person you do not care about. Cat that destroys your shoes the weekend you spend away. The dog that sulks when you greet a baby. The horse that pushes another horse aside to be the first to reach your hand. None of them are being unreasonable. They are protecting a connection they believe is theirs. Jealousy is the price of love. Every animal that has ever formed a bond worth losing has had to evolve some version of it. A species that did not get jealous would have no couples, no mothers defending their young, no friendships strong enough to bother defending. Without jealousy, attachment itself collapses. For 200,000 years, we have assumed that jealousy was a sign of how complicated we are, of how sophisticated, how civilized, how human. It is the opposite. Jealousy is one of the oldest emotions in the animal kingdom. The dog that walks between you and your friend. Cat that hides under the bed for 2 days after the new dog arrives. The capuchin that throws her cucumber. The parrot that bites the partner. The swan that does not take another mate for 6 years. They are not being dramatic. They are running the same chemistry, the same neural circuits, the same heart that you run when somebody you love laughs too long at somebody else's joke. We invented the word jealousy. We did not invent the feeling. It was already inside every animal that ever loved something enough to be afraid of losing it. And the next time your dog pushes its head between you and the person you are kissing, or your cat refuses to look at you for an hour after you came home smelling like another animal, you are not watching a misunderstanding. You are watching one of the oldest emotions on Earth, alive and well, in the body of someone who has decided that you, specifically, are theirs. The same emotion the capuchin felt holding that cucumber. The same emotion the swan held onto for 6 years. The same emotion a parrot will draw blood over. You belong to them, in their head. And jealousy is just the chemistry of that thought, in any species that has ever loved anyone at all.